Meteorological, so it's Friends of IPCC. They, in their website, they take a photo of their observatory at high tide, it's green grass in front, and then they take the photo at extreme flooding, and then the water is at the doorstep. And
so they show a storm surge. So they show it at low tide, knowing the public doesn't know there are tides.
So those, if it is accidental storm, of course it has nothing whatsoever to do with the rise in sea level. It's just something which happened day up and down, which sea always is going. So
well, Doctor, let me bring this up.
To fool us. We have the other, Vanuatu, which is another area where they said that people had to leave the country because it was flooded. Again, tide gauge is the only thing we have. The only evidence is a tide gauge for 15 years, and it's completely stable.
But that's what I'm, Doctor,
yep.
That's what I'm bringing up. And you went to Copenhagen. What is it like to stand face-to-face with people that know it's a fraud who just want to set up a global tax? I mean, they know it's a fraud. They know they're criminals. Is it because they just want research money?
No,
or are they fellow...
Unfortunately, our group had its own meeting, and we could never face the other side. That was a very sad thing because we wanted to face them, but they didn't. The other side didn't want to see us or hear about us. So that's it. So we went.
Though they did send out some of their minions to disrupt some of your events.
Yeah, but they couldn't succeed with that. They tried, but it didn't work very well.
So they're behind armed guards, and then they send out their minions.
It's very simple. If you have what you believe is the truth behind it, it's easy to make correct and strong wording. And the same you nearly see in the face of people who say the right thing or have to put up a lie, because there's something in the eyes which you reveal what you are saying. I was recently, a month ago, I was in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the country of the world which is most vulnerable to floodings and cyclones and a monsoonal regime.
All right, stay there, Doctor. We've got to go to break. Come back and tell us about that.
Okay.
We have a top sea level expert. I don't know if you'd call it hydrologist. He just retired. He was the head of Paleogeophysics and Geodynamics department at Stockholm University. I guess he registers hydrology on a global scale. And he's exposing the criminals. In 1913, close to 100 years ago, a fraud as big as the Copenhagen global government takeover happened to our nation. A private group of banks paid off the government to give them the power to issue currency and credit. And now, 97 years later, the very same group of banking families are setting up a global tax on all human activity. We're talking to one of the world experts on sea levels, Dr. Nils-Axel Mörner. He joins us from Sweden. He just got back from the Copenhagen Global Government event that is in deep trouble, thank God. But it doesn't matter. They're still implementing it at the local level. You were finishing up a story about a nation you visited. Go ahead.
Yes, Bangladesh. That's a nation which is probably the most vulnerable to flooding disasters and cyclones, all in relation to the annual monsoonal changes. So there we know from year to year that floods and its terrible loss of people. And IPCC have claimed with the rising sea level it will be so disastrous that maybe hundreds of thousands of people will be killed, and also maybe 1/4 of the country will be simply wiped out. Some have even said 90%. So that is what they claim. But what is the truth? The truth is something completely different. I have been in the Sundarban Delta. The Delta is the most sensitive area. First of all, I learned that it has become more saline. The fresh water has decreased. So they say, sea is rising. However, it's not at all rising. They have built a dam of Ganges, so of course less fresh water is coming out. That's the only simple reason why it's become more marine. Another area have been more affected by floodings. So what have happened there? They have cut down the mangrove forest to give place for shrimp ponds. And it was earlier 4,945 hectares of mangrove swamp. Now it is 150 hectares.
And so now the water can speed up.
Yes. So but instead of saying, we have done something stupid, we shouldn't have done that, they say, it's the global sea level rise and we cannot do anything and the West must pay us. So I went out there and it was very rapidly I found an area where it is a delta area. The delta is usually built up right to the mean sea level. So in this delta, first of all, it was covered by a forest which is 50 years, maybe 100 years. So it means that sea had not continued to rise, because otherwise the forest would have been underwater, and it's not. So that is the first thing, but nobody have thought of that. Second, it was a huge, tremendous erosion. Huge part of the coast was gone. And you could see in the shore, lot of tree trunks was sticking out. Many people would say, because there are tree trunks, it's a forest, it would be rise in sea level. But those were mangrove trees, and you could see the horizontal root system, which tell you exactly that this where the mud flat was before the erosion. And if you make that calculation, sea level has not risen a centimeter. Maybe even gone a little
so
down.
They cut down the mangroves to put in shrimp farms. There was some floods and there was some erosion.
Yeah, but that was another place where I was. It was right in the middle of the remaining mangrove forest, an island which was facing the whole of the Indian Ocean. So that was severely eroded. And all the other people, when they see erosion, they say, sea level rise. But I could prove here by the trees again. Tree doesn't lie. The horizontal roots of the trees were 80 centimeters above the shore. They showed you that the old mudflat was 90 centimeters above the shore, and that means exactly as in the forest. So sea has not risen. That's quite simple things, but it tells you remarkable thing. Even in Bangladesh, there is no...
Well, Doctor, here's the issue. We know it's all a fraud. We know they want a global government. Yeah. I mean, when you do talk to other scientists, they keep saying the majority of scientists think the Earth is warming. No. Even as they... I mean, that's another fraud, just like polar bears can't swim, right?
Yes. So, for example, we know that we have hundreds and hundreds. We have documents. Thousands of people have signed, but in the document which we sent into Copenhagen, it was 141 scientists working.
I'll tell you what, Doctor, we got to break again. Do 5 more minutes with us on the other side. Finish up about your letter. Finish up with the work you're doing and why you think they're engaged in this fraud and how we can get the scientific method back before this fraud discredits science. We'll be right back with our guest. Stay with us. When you read the founding documents of the modern environmentalist, they're a bunch of eugenicists, period. They want global one-child policies. They want to control the world's resources. They want a carbon dictatorship. They know that humans, from the numbers I've seen, are like 1/2000th of the amount every year of carbon dioxide. I mean, it's ridiculous. And we know it's been 20 times, 14 times, depending on the ice core samples in Earth's history. It's a trace gas that we need. And I don't know how many Nobel Prize winners and scientists I've got to interview here on the show to explain that to you. It's a sick joke by George Soros and the Rockefellers and the UN to put a tax on carbon dioxide. It's asinine. They know carbon dioxide rises after temperatures go up. They know the hockey stick's a fraud. They know that they're only showing you a small part of the graph. You pull back from the graph, there's the medieval warm period. There's the warm period 9,000 years ago during the Bronze Age. That's why humans were able to develop and beef up our numbers. The